The crowd sounded like a distant waterfall. Cheers, laughter, camera shutters clicking like summer insects. At 0:06, I stood near the back of the hall, diploma clutched tightly in one hand, the other fidgeting with the zipper of my gown. It still didn't feel real. After all the years and all the sacrifices, I was finally a college graduate. 38 years old, father of one, husband to a woman I once believed would cheer the loudest for me. I should have felt proud, victorious. Instead, I felt cold, forgotten. All around me, families embraced their graduates. Parents kissed foreheads. Friends posed with bouquets and handmade signs. And me? I stood like a misplaced prop in someone else's celebration. 2 chairs in the front row stayed empty the whole ceremony. I couldn't stop glancing at them, like they might fill themselves if I stared long enough. One had Mira's name on it, the other, Leona's. I printed those name cards myself, even laminated them. Front row, left aisle, perfect view of the stage. I wanted them to see me walk, to hear my name and think, that's my husband, that's my dad. But they never came. By the time I stepped off the stage, the diploma slick. With sweat, the truth had settled in like dust on old furniture. They weren't coming. No missed calls, no texts, just silence. I told myself maybe there'd been traffic. Maybe Leona had a stomach bug. Maybe Mira had a last-minute emergency at work. But I knew better. The last few months had been strained, conversations clipped, dinners silent. I blamed stress, opposite work schedules, parenting. But maybe Mira had stopped caring about the things that mattered to me. Maybe she never really had. A group of students passed by, arms looped, around laughing relatives. A classmate from psych class gave me a sympathetic smile before turning to her mother. I nodded reflexively. I couldn't tell if her look was pity or politeness, and I didn't want to find out. For a second, I considered asking someone to take my picture. Just one, to prove I'd been here. But the idea of forcing a stranger to pretend we shared some joy felt like rubbing salt into a wound. So I walked toward the back, away from the flashes, the claps, the celebration that felt borrowed from someone else's life. There was no party waiting at home, no dinner reservation. I'd even bought a card for Leona to give me, left it on the kitchen counter with a pen and a note. Write anything, kiddo. It'll mean the world. I wasn't sure if she'd even touched it. The gown felt heavier the longer I wore it, like it was soaking up my disappointment. I should have taken it off, but I didn't know what to do with my hands without it. It was a costume I wasn't ready to shed, the last proof that I'd done something real. I watched a mother wipe tears from her son's face as he laughed, embarrassed. I used to dream of that moment, Mira's eyes lighting up, Leona running into my arms shouting, "Daddy, you did it!" Instead, I got silence. I tried not to cry, not here, not now. Grown men crying in public make people uncomfortable. They don't know whether to look away or lean in, and neither feels good. So I bit the inside of my cheek and focused on the glowing exit sign. It wasn't bitterness I felt. Not yet. Just emptiness, like a balloon slowly losing air. I'd imagined this day as a summit, the final step in a brutal climb. But alone, surrounded by perfume and confetti, it felt more like a detour into quiet heartbreak. I didn't need a banner or champagne. I just needed them. Their faces. One look, one wave. It would have been enough. Instead, all I had was a gown that didn't quite fit, a sweaty diploma, and 2 empty chairs I couldn't stop looking at like a fool. I stayed longer than I should have, hoping, not admitting what for, that maybe I was wrong. That maybe they'd show up late, breathless, apologetic, arms flung around me, but they didn't. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Staff began folding chairs. That's when it hit me, a deep, sharp truth. I had shown up for myself. No one else had. And maybe, Maybe that had to be enough. I was halfway to the exit when I felt it. A soft tap on my shoulder. Delicate. Hesitant. I turned, expecting a fellow graduate or someone handing out alumni brochures. Instead, it was Dean Carolina Whitmore. We'd spoken maybe 3 times. In 4 years. Always brief, always formal. Now, her hand still rested on my arm, and her eyes held something I hadn't seen in a long time. Genuine concern. "You're not leaving yet, are you?" she asked. Her voice was softer than I remembered. No clipboard, no staff trailing behind, just her. I opened my mouth to lie, something about coffee or traffic, but the words never came. She didn't wait for them. "Come with me," she said, already turning, and I followed. She led me behind the stage, through a hallway I hadn't noticed before, past portraits and plaques. "Where are we going?" I asked, more curious than concerned. "You'll see," she said with a faint smile. We stopped at a small door. She opened it and gestured me inside. What I found unraveled something tight in my chest. A modest room. Beige carpet. A circle of folding chairs. A table of plastic cups and what looked like homemade cookies. I expected silence. Emptiness. But it wasn't empty. And it wasn't silent. Inside were a dozen people. Professor Delaney from ethics class, Dr. Singh, Bethany the librarian. They looked up and smiled like I was the guest of honor. "There he is," Delaney grinned. Dr. Singh raised her cup. Bethany adjusted napkins like she always did with the books. "I told them you might try to leave without saying goodbye," Carolina said. "We thought you deserved something better." "Why?" I asked, stunned. "Because we noticed," she said simply. Bethany stepped forward. "You came in every Tuesday night with your daughter. Always said hi, always polite. We saw you." Dr. Singh nodded. "You asked good questions, even when you looked ready to fall asleep." Stood there blinking. I'd always felt like a ghost on campus, just another commuter, just a guy passing through. But they had noticed. Slowly, I stepped into the room. The warmth hit me. Not physical, but emotional. The opposite of loneliness. No one asked what had happened. No one made me explain. They just made space. Delaney gestured to a seat. "Not today," he said. I sat. The chair creaked beneath me. Carolina handed me punch like it was communion. "We do this sometimes," she said, "when we think someone might need it." Gratitude tangled with shame. I wasn't used to being given anything without earning it. I didn't know how to accept kindness without a fight. "I thought I was the only one who noticed those seats," I said quietly. "Empty seats don't go unnoticed," Bethany replied. "Not when they're meant for someone." And in that small room with lukewarm punch and homemade cookies, I felt something I hadn't all day, acknowledged. Delaney raised his cup again. "To the man who taught us what endurance really looks like." Plastic cups clinked, and for the first time all day, someone clapped when I walked into a room. And it was enough. This is a deeply moving and beautifully written narrative, a portrait of quiet perseverance, unseen labor, and the painful disconnect between public recognition and personal neglect. It captures the emotional complexity of being acknowledged, for the first time in a long time, not by those who were expected to, but by those who truly saw the narrator along the way. This piece is emotionally devastating in its honesty and power, raw, quiet, and beautifully layered. The way it carries the weight of unspoken sacrifice, unmet expectations, and the deeply human desire to be seen, not just looked at, but recognized, makes it unforgettable. It's not just a story about a graduation. It's a reckoning with absence, emotional labor, and the subtle betrayals that accrue in relationships when love is taken for granted. The pacing is masterful. Each paragraph unfolds like a breath, being held a second too long. The choice to have the protagonist receive no acknowledgement at home and then find it gently, authentically, among peers who understand survival rather than just achievement, is quietly triumphant. There's no melodrama here, only truth. Lines like, "I was always the one adjusting, the one bending, the one carrying the dream while she held the excuses," and "This time I had a card full of names that said I mattered," crystallize the internal shift from seeking external validation to honoring one's own worth. This isn't just a moment of personal closure, it's a threshold. The final act at the diner redefines the protagonist's identity through community, empathy, and belonging. The story ends not in bitterness, but in possibility. Voice and emotion. The narrator's voice is intimate and raw, delivering emotional weight without over-dramatizing. You can feel the ache, the resilience, and finally, the quiet joy. Structure and flow. Despite being presented as a single continuous piece, it flows smoothly. Key beats are paced well. The text message, the choice not to respond, the email to Carolina, the slow shift in the home dynamic, and the final payoff. Imagery and detail. From the freezer aisle to the knock on the door, the mundane is rendered with meaning. The small gestures, cookies, a sprout drawing, a ceramic pot, carry immense symbolic weight. Theme. It's about reclaiming worth, not through revenge or confrontation, but through self-acknowledgement and the support of unexpected allies. It handles growth, disappointment, and affirmation with grace. Suggestions for revision. If you're looking to rewrite this for clarity, publication, or performance, here are a few areas you could refine. Paragraphing. Break it into paragraphs for readability. Currently, it's a wall of text, which can feel overwhelming. Every shift in scene, thought, or tone should ideally start a new paragraph. Punctuation and formatting. Standardize capitalization and punctuation for professionalism. For instance, capitalize proper nouns and the start of sentences. Polish transitions. Some transitions between emotional beats could be softened or clarified to ensure coherence. Sample edited. Opening. The room where I didn't have to shrink to fit it was 3 weeks after graduation. My phone buzzed, tucked, deep in the side pocket of my jeans, just as I reached for a head of lettuce in the grocery store. I didn't check it right away, too focused on the mundane rhythm of life. Apples, bread, milk, rice. The kind of list that never changed, even when your life did.